Right, last section, but the longest section. What is apophenia? Many of you know, all of you may know, those of you who don't, this is apophenia. Those don't look like faces until they look like faces, and then they don't look anything like anything except faces. So apophenia is the human tendency to make patterns and to find meaning in gaps. And if you're a game designer with a limited budget, apophenia is great. So the 3 rules that I propose for Apophenian design are: 1, don't simulate, reckon, imply. 2, show your mechanics to your players, make your design visible. And 3, lean into your limitations again, cut, limit what you do. We talk about each of those. All digital games, with some trivial exceptions, run on computers. They're all software. Computers are all good at simulating. Software is designed in large part for simulation. So simulation is always a temptation when you're making a game. You try to make the thing that you're modeling as much like the real world thing as possible. You think, I'll just add more behavior to it, it'll be more sophisticated, it'll look more like the actual thing. Or you try to do photorealistic graphics, or you have 2 separate talks on wind physics for your extremely gorgeous game. I love God of War, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing God of War, but the point is, that isn't available to most of us. Simulation is very often a temptation. So for hundreds, and in some cases thousands of years, other creative forms who can't simulate anywhere except between the player's ears, those art forms have been finding ways to use apophenia to leave gaps in the work that the player could insert their imagination into. And if the player inserts, or the viewer or the reader or the listener or whatever, if the player of your game inserts their imagination into a gap, 2 things happen. 1, they feel that they own the experience, it's a more creative experience, and they're going to be more engaged with the game. 2, the CPU cost is a lot lower. You get a lot more bang for your buck. So let me give you some specific examples. So here is the core mechanic of Cultist Simulator. You put cards in slots, you hit start, and something happens. There are a limited number of slots on the board. Fun fact, there are usually about 5, 6, sorry, there are as standard 5, 6 verbs on the table, and a verb cycle normally takes about 60 seconds, which means that if you have all the verbs going at the same time, something happens about every 10 seconds and you can see it coming, which is what makes the game addictive, which I stole from Civilization. Thank you very much, Sid Meier. And, but you've only got 1 work verb, or 1 explore verb and 1 dream verb. And the work verb is work in 2 senses. It's work in the sense of go to Glover and Glover and earn money. It's also work in the sense of the great work, the magical work. And so you can use 2 kinds of things in work. You can use your job cards and your abilities to generate money. And you can also use rites to perform occult operations and summon things, or murder people, or whatever you feel like doing. The point is, you can only do 1 of those at a time. If you're doing occult operations, you are not going to work and earning money, and vice versa. And this is the core of one of the creative intentions of the game. It's the division between your day job and the secret wonders of the night, which a lot of indie devs who've worked part-time on their own projects will recognize. And I'm not even being cheap there. When I first did the Cultist Simulator prototype, I was about to do a bunch of contract work, and I was creatively engaged by the difference between the things you love doing and the things you have to do. But the point is, Cultist doesn't give you a speech about that. There's no opening text crawl that says the choice that the human must make is between dreams and life. It presents that mechanically for you to absorb and enthuse about on a Steam review, hopefully. Here's another game that does something beautiful with mechanics, very minimally. Heretic Operative came out last month, strongly recommend it. It's sort of Elder Signs Omens board gamey sort of thing. The only two numbers you need to worry about here that our NPC has are the one by the black cross, which is corruption, and the one by, I think, the orb in two hands, which is tranquility. And magic in Heretic Operative works like this. Every time you cast a spell, you gain corruption. If corruption reaches 100, you switch sides. Every turn, whether you cast a spell or not, your corruption goes down by your tranquility. So if you manage to spend some time not doing magic, then you'll return to normal. You don't spend magic points, you don't take health damage, it's just the corruption stat. If your corruption crests 50, I think, you become curious. And that means your tranquility drops. If your corruption crests 75, your tranquility drops again because you become open-minded. And your tranquility can go negative. What that means is your corruption will start rising every turn because you're just too open to the things you shouldn't be open to. That's lovely. That tells you a lot of the things you need to know about the way magic operates in the game, and it's also a really interesting mechanic. Lovely design. But that is Apophenian mechanical design. That is using design to tell a story.